Morning, guys. This is a toothless morning. My allergies are so bad from all the tree pollen that I've got sores in my mouth this morning. And so you get to see the beautiful face this morning. But basically, I thought today I'd talk just a bunch of odds and ends of stuff about homesteading, okay? One of the things is about working with our bees. You know, we have several hives. We got quite large for a little while, and then got hit really bad one winter, and we've got two good hives right now, and he's going to be dividing them here in the next week or so. But I am super allergic. I have to carry 2 EpiPens and always have to keep Benadryl on hand, etc. But one of the tricks of living with our bees, who I adore watching, they're absolutely beautiful, okay? That's a big part of it. They're so stunningly beautiful. And they produce so much for our homestead. We have them primarily for pollinators, but the honey and the beeswax and the propolis are all, they're important additions to rounding out our homestead. But working with them can be a real issue for me. The warmer weather, they're down here in the garden pollinating. So I'm down here early in the morning usually working. I also don't wear black when I'm working down here in the garden because the bees don't like black. And, I'm sure there are a lot of scientific theories out there, but my spin is they think black's a bear. One of the favorite things for bears to do is rob homestead beehives. We've got electric fence around here and cattle pen and fencing. And I also have chicken wire because a lot of times I let the chickens graze in here. We free range our chickens except for at night. So, but there's a lot of odds and ends like that, if you're not used to living on a homestead, not dealing with things like that daily, we're 30 miles from the hospital. Ambulance cannot get back here. We've made some major health decisions that my granddaughter knows about and friends know about because we love how we live, and so we're making medical choices, of course, Sorry, moving this around. But it's an important realization as a homesteader. What are your health issues, What do you keep on hand? I keep things on hand to clot blood, for fever, for all the different things that, everyday things, between the herbs. And then I do keep some medications on hand. And I always keep an EpiPen. Thank goodness for the VA and my benefits there. But to be able to live like this, you have to think about what ifs. Hang on a minute. I'm going to put the stand on this so I can carry it around a little bit better. I'll keep wobbling it this way. But, an unexpected one for me was breaking an ankle. I didn't realize how much I actually did daily until I couldn't do it anymore. That was a major wake-up. Thank God for Sean and Matt. Neil was not feeling well during that time period. And both those boys stepped in and really picked up and helped out. But part of this is learning your limits and adjusting if things do happen. I mean, we've had some we've been on the place since August of 2006. It took us about 3 years to get the house built. We also built 2 other homes for our family in that process. My daughter had terminal cancer, and, we walked through all that world. And for those of you that are dealing with family members with cancer, you know what that's like. It's a daily thing, and your focus is there on that person who is so ill and trying to make their world better as much as you can. And it's just an ongoing process, and it slows down what you're doing, but you're doing it voluntarily. You're doing it out of love. And your focus has changed because of the love you bear that family member. And then we came, and during her final year, our straw bale home that we had done solar planning with, all the passive design methods that we used with it, which were very successful, except for we didn't realize that we'd built on fill dirt on one side of the house. And in doing so, we had a 4.3 quake. That turned to jelly, and it took the house off the foundation. And that was a big hit. And then we lost her that same year. and it knocked us off our feet. But you know what? You need those times to grieve. You need those times to adjust to the changes in your life. And then you pick up and you start going again. You know, you deal with health issues. You know, you deal with loss of livestock. That is a normal thing on a homestead, is to lose livestock, either from old age or you have something health-wise that even a vet can't take care of. We do most of our own home care. We keep a closed herd with both our chickens and our goats. And, you know, when we bring in livestock, we isolate it. Or even when we buy from a reputable dealer, we isolate our animals as they first come in. We don't put them in with the other animals until we're reasonably sure that they don't have things. With goats, a real issue is CAE. It's an arthritic disease that attacks the organs. It shortens a goat's life. Where we tend to keep our old ladies because we have a generational herd, and they teach the younger does a lot about childbirth and caring for their the little kids and everything. But instead of a goat living and producing well until they're about 8 or 9 and then retiring, you can lose them at 4 or 5 years. You will take them. There's so much damage from it. So that's something you have to be very careful about. And, you know, papers lie, people lie. Maybe not intentionally, maybe they think. But, you know, just, you know, you got to do your due diligence when you buy livestock off the farm. Oh, there's so many things to talk about. You know, right now I'm doing major cleanup. Trying to get a garden going and clean up the old portions of the garden at the same time can be really fun, let me tell you. But I'm going to turn the camera around and just take you guys with me as I work, okay? Hang on there, guys. Here we go. My red kale that I got from Plants Etc. is doing beautifully, and I've got some Brussels sprouts that I grew from starts. And here are some San Maranzo paste tomatoes, which is my favorite variety. Got a little bit of bok choy coming up, but it's trying to bulk. I think I got it up to too late in the game. I got my asparagus. I put some new asparagus in that bed, and it's survived. I didn't know if it had survived the winter because I didn't get down here and mulch it like I wanted to. But it has survived and is doing well. I've got some wild lettuce here, and my St. John's wort. Yay! Look at that. I have not been able to get that to grow on this property. And I stuck it in here. I stuck one in here with the intention of moving it to one of my perennial beds. And look at that stuff. That's going to live there. And this is another herb bed. I've got mint and stevia, marshmallow, which makes a good expectorant and soothing. The root makes a soothing syrup. Motherwort and that Zelon compound back there, which I have not used before. Now I've got some more reading to do in here. And then I've got my onions are looking pretty good. I threw a few lettuce in there, I don't know. But anyhow, I went through and healed up the lettuce a little bit. These are my leeks. And I planted chamomile in with them because they're supposed to be very friendly. But I grow jewelweed. I've got a wild patch here, and it reseeded definitely this year. I made a real mistake. I brought my straw from the feed store, and I've got wheat coming up everywhere. And Neil has promised that he'll get down here this evening and pull that wheat for me. So, yeah, and I went ahead and I put some of my okra out. I didn't get things started early enough, but hopefully we'll have a long enough season for it. And then this is black cohosh and forest mint. Look at my comfrey. Isn't that gorgeous? She's so pretty. Has so many uses. You have to use comfrey with caution, though. You know, there are a lot of things about it being carcinogen. It needs to be used sparingly and not internally. You know, we always used to use comfrey tea, and I've stopped doing that. But I still use the leaves and the roots for salves and things, you know. And as you can see, the weed eaters there. And this is my clematis that Marty gave me. She was the lady who stepped up and mothered me a lot. I've got echinacea coming up there. Oh, look, I put out some impatiens, and they weren't doing too good. But look at them now, they're full bloom. And that's catmint back there. I also have catnip on the other side. And this has got thyme and chives and my garden sage, lamb's ears, another mint. There's the red buckeye that Vicki brought me. Ooh, look, butterflies. Butterflies. Can you see them? Wow, they're so beautiful. And my saucer magnolia lived, and I've got a big Joe Pye weed there. This is elderberry. I'm just standing here doing a turnaround. There's mayapple and blackberries. I'm battling blackberries and dock this year. And I've got cauliflower and cabbage and lots of different things in. I interplant a lot and companion plant, and I tend to keep a rich soil base going on. But there's just a lot of stuff. You know, for me, we're trying to really focus on growing food this year, and I've got a lot of longer rows planted right now. But this small raised bed area is the love of my life, you know, as far as gardening goes. I've got butterfly bush, just lemon balm, you know, just a lot of different things growing. I believe interplanting is so important. If you monocrop stuff, it just doesn't do well, you know. We have lost so much of our diversity in the last 50 years, you know. Things have disappeared. And let's go check on our bunnies. I was a little concerned about the heat yesterday, so I did some modifications. Put the shade cloth up and opened up both ends of the greenhouse. Hey babies, how are you doing? Did you get a little cool last night? Yeah, there's Mama's and another batch of babies over there. Anyhow, that's it for now.